learners, welcome to the course Migrated Women's Literature. In our today's lecture, we will be talking about the novel Jahajin. It is written by Peggy Mohan. Peggy Mohan was born in Trinidad, West Indies, and she had her PhD in linguistics from University of Michigan. Later, she migrated to India. In India, Peggy Mohan had taught at various universities like Jawaharlal Nehru, Jamia Millia Islamia and many other universities. Peggy Mohan became famous for her writing Jahajin, which is a novel as well as which is considered as a memoir also. There are some other writings by her also, and some of very famous are The Youngest Suspect, Walk in C Minor. Peggy Mohan's works mainly revolve around the theme of experiences of immigrants, and she also writes about terrorism trials. She has talked about and she has also written about certain themes like leadership, like women empowerment. Basically, Peggy Mohan is a linguist, therefore she has interest in language, and we can easily understand this interest through her writings. Whenever we read any of her books, we feel that she has this special love for language which gets reflected through her writings also. Her novel, which we are going to talk about today, explores the history of India with the medium of language. She has used that language which was of her ancestors, that is Bhojpuri language. And while studying about Bhojpuri language, while working on her research, and also while interviewing certain people, she got this idea of producing this work which is known as Jahajin, a memoir. Let us talk about the significance of its title. The title Jahajin is very apt and significant, as we all know that the people, the migrants, when they started their journey, that was a very difficult time. They did not have many resources, and traveling so far at that time was in fact one of the most difficult things. So people, specifically the laborers who migrated from India to different places, or I must say who were pulled from India by the British government and then placed in different places that were their other colonies. These migrants, they traveled by ships. They were basically laborers who reached Trinidad in ships, and these laborers were totally stranger to each other. There were so many people traveling in that same ship and they did not know each other. But as they spent time together, they started knowing each other, and then they developed this feeling of brotherhood. So they started referring to each other as Jahaji Bhai. This was the term used by all the males in those ships. So they referred to each other as Jahaji Bhai. Jahaz, which means ship, and Bhai is a term for brother. So brothers who have got connected through the ship. So this was the term that they got for each other. They referred to each other, they called each other as Jahaji Bhai, and on hearing that, women also started calling each other as Jahajin, a term which meant a female dweller of a ship. So this way Peggy Mohan has got her title Jahajin because she is talking about these female laborers who had migrated from India and got settled in Trinidad. So these female laborers are talked about in this work, therefore she has given it the title Jahajin, which means the sisters from the ship. Let us have an overview of the story. Jahajin was written in 2007 by Peggy Mohan. It is a story which has many autobiographical elements. Since Peggy Mohan has been working on her research work, for that work she needed to interview certain people, and there in Trinidad she chose to talk to the people from the first generation of migrants. So this is something which she has included in this work also. That is why we feel some autobiographical elements in this book, that is Jahajin. The story revolves around the Girmitia diaspora, where many people had migrated from India to Trinidad, and these people had migrated specifically from the regions known as Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, and some of them had also migrated from West Bengal. So, as we know that this phase of migrants were not educated, they were illiterate people. So, when they were taken from India to Trinidad, there was an agreement which they were made to sign. So, this agreement which they could not pronounce, and they called the word Girmit. Therefore, they all referred to themselves as Girmitia. Girmitia for them was a word which meant that there is someone who has come to this new place on an agreement. So, in a way they themselves had created an identity. They used this term Girmitia for their own identity. Another thing that we notice here is that not only the Girmitia diaspora is referred to in this text, but also we get a reference to Kangni diaspora as well. Kangni diaspora, which came just after the Girmitia, or we can say that these were going on simultaneously also. So, in Kangni diaspora there used to be a middleman who used to find some people, and then on the instructions and directions of government he used to take these people to different places. So, Kangni was the person, in a way was a kind of a middleman who made these people sign that agreement, sign that document. So, here we find references to Girmitia diaspora as well as Kangni diaspora in this text. Jahajin is a story which explores the 3 months long journey of Girmitias from Calcutta to Trinidad. These people had covered a long journey in search of employment. Despite knowing that crossing the Kala Pani will outcast them. Kala Pani is a term which was used at that time for Bay of Bengal. And becoming an outcast, let us discuss about that. Kala Pani, or as we can translate it into English like black water. So, crossing that black water or Bay of Bengal was supposed to be an act which was prohibited, and crossing that Kala Pani was something unimaginable for these people. As here we have a quote from the text which I read. So, this was the Kala Pani, the black water that was supposed to change you forever, turn you into an outcast. So, turning one into an outcast means that the person will no longer remain connected to the roots. The person will go away from the motherland, thus this person will not be a part of the family, part of the relatives, and a part of his or her own land. So, being outcast literally means that this person will no longer be a part of the community. However, here Peggy Mohan has used it metaphorically, which refers to going too far away from the motherland and not being able to come back. So, throughout the journey, These people had faced many hardships, but they all had managed to create a sense of brotherhood among them. They started calling each other as Jahaji Bhai, and women started calling each other as Jahajin. When they all reached Trinidad, these indentured laborers, they had started working in Espanza State. The narrator of the story here is a linguist, just like the creator of the story, Peggy Mohan, who herself is a linguist. So she has given an autobiographical element to this story, and she has created a narrator who is a linguist. Now this linguist records the story of Dida. She is a 110-year-old woman. Dida is one of the indentured laborers who migrated from India to Trinidad, and Dida calls Trinidad as Chinidad. She came there with great-great-grandmother of the narrator, signing that agreement. This novel revolves around 4 women characters, and each has their own tale, but the stories of all these 4 women are intricately interconnected. Dida retells her story from Basti to Trinidad. Basti is a place where she used to live in India. In between, she also tells the folk tale, that is Rani Saranga Ka Qissa. This is a love story of Saranga and Sada Birj. So Dida narrates her life in India during the drought and how that Arkatiniya lady made her sign the agreement in the name of employment. So Arkatiniya, this is a term which is used for the woman or for that man who was a kind of a mediator between the government and the people. And this was the person who encouraged these people to migrate from India to different places, to the colonies of British, where they would get some work. And this person has promised Dida for a good fortune, for a good place of living, and a very happy life. Therefore, Dida also agrees to sign that agreement. I quote, "They wanted laborers to work in the sugarcane field. She told me they were especially looking for women to go, and she promised me an extra advance if I signed up." So here this Arkatiniya is a woman who has encouraged Dida to migrate. During her journey, she meets the family of Mukund Singh, who later converted to Christianity after reaching Trinidad. So, by showing this conversion, Peggy Mohan has highlighted the concept of cultural assimilation as well as the change of religion. His conversion reflects on the theme of cultural assimilation and transformation. Here, it is not only cultural assimilation but a loss of identity also. Mukund Singh, whose religion was his identity, now he has changed that identity. Dida develops some feelings for Mukund Singh, but the expressed relationship ends abruptly when Mukund Singh kills a white overseer for molesting his daughter, Sunaria. Mukund Singh hides for 2 years and decides to marry Sunaria to Janki Didi's son. When he gets arrested for his crime, he offers Dida to accompany him to India, but she refuses. Dida knows that her return will outcast her and she will lose her newly gained freedom. Dida's refusal reflects on the centuries old traditions of India, where caste plays a significant role. She rejects Mukund Singh's proposal because she knows that because of their caste difference, people will never accept their relationship in India. And she has been living in Trinidad freely, so she doesn't want to leave her independence. She doesn't want to sacrifice that freedom. Now, the narrator of the story doing her research in Bhojpuri language, tries to explore her parentage through memories of Dida and her grandmother, who helps her to transcribe the tapes. The narrator reveals about the death of Sunaria, who dies during her fifth childbirth, and her eldest son Nana looks after the family after the death of Sunaria. In this novel, Nana is not portrayed as a typical traditional man, but he is depicted as a man who supports children. When Nana's eldest daughter Aji, narrator's grandmother, had a luckless marriage, he supported her daughter to divorce her husband. So in this novel Jahajin, Peggy Mohan has depicted the loss of memories and the loss of Bhojpuri language in Trinidad. Through this novel, Peggy Mohan has represented the diversity that is present in India. And this diversity of Indian culture has been shown with the help of various characters. The narrator of the story plays an important role in reconstructing the past by recording the story of earlier generation of immigrants. This novel also represents the conflicts of the younger generation through the character of narrator. She struggles to decide whether to stay in Trinidad to fulfill the dream of her family or to listen to her heart, to visit the land of her ancestors, that is India. She tries to maintain a relationship with Trinidad while longing for India by exploring Trinidad with Faizi. Faizi is a boy who introduces the narrator to the diverse cultures of Trinidad. Here, this narrator develops feelings for Faizi, but Faizi shows no interest in her work, neither in her life. Later, the narrator struggles to choose between Faizi and Nishant, an Indian boy, who is the class fellow of this narrator. Here, this conflict to choose between Nishant and Faizi works as a symbol to show the struggle of the narrator to choose between Trinidad and India. She wants to pursue her dreams, but she has this conflict of whether to stay in Trinidad or go to India for her work. At last, she decides to travel to India for her research in Bhojpuri language. Throughout the novel, the dying Bhojpuri language works as a connection to India. Let us talk about different characters of this novel. The very first character is Dida. She is from the first generation of the immigrant laborers. She has come from Basti to Trinidad, and her real name is Parvati, and the girl Sunaria, who has met her during their voyage, she has given her this name Dida. I quote, "She thought for a minute, 'What should I call you?' she asked. 'Well, you could call me Didi,' I said. 'Big sister.' 'No,' she said, 'too common. I know, I'll call you Dida,' unquote. So Dida is shown as an eldest immigrant alive on that island, and she has met Sunaria and Mukund Singh during the journey, and then she develops some feelings for Mukund Singh. However, she rejects his proposal because she doesn't want to go back to India. Here we see that Dida, along with other women characters in this text, represents empowerment of women. Instead of going back to the past and being dependent on the male members of the family, she decides to be strong and stay in the present. So Dida's character reflects self-confidence also. Next character is Sunaria. Sunaria is narrator's great grandmother. She has accompanied Dida in her voyage to Trinidad, and Sunaria depicts the traditional Indian woman who does not take her own decision but who depends upon men. Along with her father Mukund Singh, here Sunaria has also accepted Christianity, which shows cultural overlapping and cultural assimilation. And then she was married to Janki Didi's son, after which she dies during her 5th childbirth. Third character is narrator, who does the work of connecting these characters with the help of story narration. She is a linguist and who records the story of Dida. So, this narrator plays an active role in weaving the tale of Saranga and Dida's narrative together. The tale of Saranga is a fictional story which is incorporated in this text, where Peggy Mohan shows that the love of Saranga was so strong that she eventually succeeds in finding that. In the same way, Dida's love for her motherland is so strong that despite being living in a foreign country, she never feels disconnected from that place. So, narrator is a representative of the second generation of immigrants, and she can speak English. She has all those cultural effects of the host country which the first generation people did not have. Here narrator explores Trinidad with the help of a Trinidadian person whose name is Faizi, and the narrator feels connected with India whenever she listens to the story of Dida. Another character is Saranga. Saranga is a character that has been taken from the fictional story of Saranga and Sada Birj. So, this is a story which is narrated within this text, and here it is shown that Saranga is a woman who is very strong, and in every birth she is so strong that she wins the battle. Eventually, in the story Rani Saranga Ka Kissa, we see that Saranga achieves her love. So, this is a medium, this story is used as a metaphor to highlight the longing for the motherland, the longing for the past. Now, let us discuss different themes of this text Jahajin. The very first theme is women empowerment. In the novel, women are depicted as strong characters, and the story revolves around 4 major characters, that are Dida, narrator, Sunaria and Saranga. Dida is the central figure here in this story, and her character symbolizes independence and self-confidence. She is used as an outstanding example of women empowerment. Since the beginning of the story, we see that Dida is very strong and she takes charge of her life. Other female characters are also self-reliant in this story, but the strongest one is Dida. Though these female characters are shown as someone who maintains the cultural values, who follows the tradition and knows all those rituals and customs. Yet these female characters, unlike other women of that era, are strong enough to decide for themselves, and the strongest one is Dida, because she boldly sticks to her religious beliefs while other laborers like Mukund Singh choose to convert to Christianity. Another example we find for women empowerment is when Dida decides to stay instead of going with the man of her choice. So, these are not easy decisions. Following one's religion and choosing to be independent and staying in that new land, these decisions are real difficult decisions, keeping in mind the era of migration as well as the situation of women in Indian patriarchal society. Next theme is cultural assimilation. The very first example of cultural assimilation can be seen with the help of the character Mukund Singh, who rejects his own religion and converts to Christianity. Another thing that we notice gets reflected through the second generation of the characters, second generation of these immigrant people who learn to speak English, who adopt all the ways of Trinidadian life, and they start maintaining their dual identities. So, this theme of cultural assimilation gets reflected with the help of both the generations of migrants, the first generation migrants who carry their ethnic identity and who struggle hard to maintain their acquired identity, and the second generation of these immigrants who have preferred their acquired identity over their ethnic identity. Another theme is the theme of love. Love is shown in its all forms. It is not only the romantic love that is presented with the help of these characters in this novel. However, we find other forms of love also. We see this work is an example of brotherhood, where all those strangers suddenly became brothers, suddenly started worrying and caring for each other. We see the example of familial love also shown in this work, where we see Dida looking after Sunaria just like a mother does to her daughter. Another example of love is Sada Bridge and Saranga's love story, which is a very strong example of romantic love. So, we see that the theme of love is also presented in this word. Another theme is nostalgia. Nostalgia is represented with the metaphorical story of Rani Saranga Ka Kissa. This story is used to show a connection with the roots. This story is used to highlight the nostalgic feelings for the Indian culture. So, through the tale of Saranga, Dida symbolically returned to her home. On the indentured laborer's side, there was one laborer, Ram Sukh. He keeps mango seeds with him, and these seeds are symbols of remembrance of one's land. So, this act of Ram Sukh reflects the theme of nostalgia. Next theme is theme of brotherhood, which is quite attached with the theme of love. So, during their journey, these indentured laborers has created a strong bond of brotherhood amongst them. They live and eat together in the ship. A sense of longing for home creates a kind of generational relationship between them. So, this sense of longing for their motherland has given them a sense of belonging to each other. So, this bond between Dida and Sunaria, which has got developed during that voyage, this also highlights the theme of harmony. Another theme is the theme of social inequality. This theme is shown in the novel through the life conditions of indentured laborers. Dida and her son belong to the lower strata of the society, due to which they face several problems, and also due to the drought in their village they had to leave their house. When they moved to the Caribbean islands, they again suffered, but this suffering was due to the immense pressure of work. Now, they had so many things in their life, and they are also told different lies at the time of getting them sign that contract. The lies related to work, working conditions, life, food, etc. All these lies had created so many problems for these people. So, we see that these lies which were spoken to those immigrants at the time of making them sign the contract, those were a clear example of exploitation of the lower strata of the society. That is all for today. We will talk about the text Jahajin in other lecture. Thank you.